.106 R&B and throwbacks on 106 Live Radio. Atlanta's music leader.
Welcome and thank you for joining us here at the Rodney Appleby Experience, where together we can explore the mysteries of music. Without your presence, this will be impossible. I appreciate you tuning in to be part of our program.
Welcome to the Rodney Appleby Experience, broadcasting live every Tuesday night, 7 to 8 p.m. with the one, the only Rodney Appleby. And now, Mr. Rodney Appleby.
Welcome. Thank y'all for tuning in. So glad you decided to swing on by. This is where we take a look at life through the mysteries of music. I'm so glad you're going to ride with me tonight. This evening, what I'd like to do, since in one of my other podcasts, we talked a little bit about how music studies actually helps prepare students in medical fields and engineer fields and have such a really, really good effect in their preparation. So I want to talk a little bit tonight about music study and kind of deal with music education. And I would love to hear from any music educators or teachers or students out there. And your input and your experience can provide some valuable insight for tonight's discussion. So I look forward to hearing from you. Now, music study, it actually requires, there's a foundation to music study, which we'll talk about. And then depending on where you would like to go in your use of music as a tool, as a profession, as a creative tool, however you want to do it, then there's specific things that may have to be addressed. For example, to be a composer or to be a performer, an actual instrumentalist. There's different training that go into each one of those specialized areas. And so in previous episodes, and don't let me forget, you're always encouraged to grab your favorite instrument and kind of follow along as we discuss some of these musical concepts. Now, in previous episodes, we scratched the surface on some things like numbers in music, and I did a few little demonstrations. And tonight, what I'd like to do is to begin to develop a common language to help simplify the discussions and kind of pave a path of clarity for us all. Now, each week, what I hope to do is bring some interesting information that could answer a few questions, solve a few mysteries, and open a few creative doors. And the small amount of theory that we cover, don't worry about that stuff. It's just for communication and clarity. That's what it's mostly for. And with your continued support and your participation and your input, we can dig deeper and build higher every time you tune in and we get together. So, it's always said that together we can do much more than we can do alone. So call in and share your experiences, your discoveries. Something that might seem insignificant may actually turn out to be that spark that lights the way for everybody. So stay with us as we set out to push beyond the boundaries of our own fears and limitations. And I invite you to call in and join the conversation and let us see where our search takes us. The number is 404-464-8785 here at the Rodney Appleby Experience at 106 Live Radio. And as we get ready to have our discussion, I want you guys to think if there's anything that you want to ask me or anything that you want to share with me, so that as we get into it, we can actually just get right to it. So feel free, call in and join the conversation. We're going to take a short break and we're going to be right back with our conversation.
106liveradio.com. Call us now at 404-464-8785.
Greetings. This is Rodney Appleby, host of the Rodney Appleby Experience. To bring you quality programming, interesting guests, and entertaining performances, your support is very important. Donations, large and small, are always welcome. Sponsors are an important part of our ability to provide you the kind of experience you deserve. Please go to 106liveradio.com/Rodney. There, you'll find a link to support the Rodney Appleby Experience. While tuned in on YouTube, please hit the like button and subscribe for alerts and updates. And you can download the 106 Live Radio app to receive notices of upcoming podcasts. And once again, thank you for your support.
Download the 106 Live Radio app from your Google Play Store. Or find us on the TuneIn app.
All right, welcome back, y'all, to the Rodney Appleby Experience here at 106 Live Radio. I'm so glad you tuned in, and I'd like for you to call in at 404-464-8785 and join the conversation. I look forward to your input. So as we continue our exploration, each week what I'm going to do as we start to talk about these things, I'm going to always remind you of the 4 stages of learning so that we can get used to those the way learning takes place, so we're more comfortable and it can happen smoother and we don't have to resist what's happening. So if you remember, if you tuned in last week, I talked about the introductory stage of new information, being introduced to some new information that you may have not encountered before, can produce some level of confusion. Well, if you're experiencing any level of confusion in the learning process, that's because the information is pretty much new. And so how would you have a basis of understanding what it is? So that's an actual signal rather than a problem. It's just a way of knowing, oh, I've just encountered new information. That's why I'm not sure what's happening with it. And so then we move to the second stage of learning, which is developing your knowledge about it, or what we call study, as you study something. And that's what we're going to talk a little bit about tonight in music study. And in that particular stage of learning, I think the word may be a little too strong, fear. That may not be accurate, but some level of hesitation or concern or just a little bit of trepidation because one is trying to make sure, am I getting it right? Am I doing this the way it's supposed to? And I think that's appropriate because you don't want to rush into something if you're not sure what you're doing. So that hesitation is, in fact, a signal that you're processing the information and your mind and your brain is telling you, give me a minute. Let me process what's going on here. So that hesitation is actually a signal to give yourself time to absorb it. There's a saying I like to use sometimes when I'm involved in practice or study or something, and I say, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So if you give yourself time and get it really perfectly slow and get everything in order, you'll find yourself able to fly through it at some time when you get really comfortable. Then we move to the third stage of learning. And that third stage is where you begin to
develop your skills, or now you're at the practice stage. Practicing, and I can tell you, I've practiced a lot. And and that level of learning can be, I'm saying it can be, quite frustrating. And simply because when you're starting off, I like to do this grid thing where there's 10 attempts, 10 times. And to make it simple, how I describe it is in that first 10 attempts, you're probably going to get it right once, wrong 9 times, and the one time you got it right was an accident. So, so that's just showing you can do it. Now you're going to slow it down, take your time, and then you're going to get it right when you try that second 10 times. You're going to get it right maybe twice. One of them, you're going to get it right because you actually knew what you were doing. The other one, you're going to get it right by accident again. And the other 8, you're just going to get wrong. Now, by this point, you're feeling like, can I do this? Or, that's when you have to then again give yourself time. Be kind to yourself. Don't judge yourself. Just work through the steps. And by the time you get down to the, let's say, the 8th set of 10 tries, you're getting it right 8 times and wrong twice. And the 4 of them, you're getting them right, but they don't feel quite perfect. The other 4, you're getting them right and they feel solid and intentional, and you can do it. And as you start to get further down that stage of learning, that practice grid, your confidence starts to build because you can see yourself getting it. So that's a very frustrating but worthwhile area. That's the place where they say there are no shortcuts. There are no loopholes. Either you put the time in, develop the discipline, and thereby develop the skill, or you don't. There's no shortcut to it. And then that 4th stage of learning, where there's the demonstration. In school, they call it being tested, let's say. When I was teaching college, we used to have, instead of a final exam, I taught jazz in the jazz ensemble. And instead of having a written exam, I would have the semester's work where the students would have to write their own music, and that's what we were going to perform at the end of the semester. And so that was the demonstration stage where they have to be able to apply what they've learned at whatever stage and level they feel comfortable. And at that stage, there's a sense of excitement. Sometimes it come off as nervousness, but it's really excitement. And the relief and the confidence that follows, I've witnessed it too many times. It is beautiful to watch someone who starts off with the deer in the headlights look, and then all of a sudden, bang, they bust through, and you can see it. You can see them just kind of start to blossom and bloom. I love that moment. I just love it. I could tell y'all a few stories about some students. My own daughter, who's out there in the world doing some really nice things. I remember her first solo with a jazz band, and it was funny watching. And she looked up for a minute like, really, me? And then all of a sudden she just dropped her head and started easy into it. And by the time she realized all that practicing and all that stuff that she had did was actually working, and it wasn't difficult, it was actually sounding good. Oh, she tore into that thing and had a great time. I remember it so vividly. The tune was Stanley Turntine's Sugar, jazz standard. Beautiful thing. So those 4 stages of learning, when you recognize it, introduction and the accompanying confusion, knowledge development and the hesitation, the kind of concern, the skills development and the frustration that goes with that, and then the demonstration and the application of your hard work and the excitement, the relief and the confidence that builds. By recognizing those patterns, you can clearly see the reward at the end of a long, hard road of work. And this pattern recognition can help reduce the anxiety, and it can make the learning process a bit less stressful. So it's just worth knowing that. So I'll give a reminder of that each week, because I think that's an important part of learning, whether it's music or anything, but particularly in music. I really believe it's important to know that, because many people think talent has a lot to do with it. And I've watched many talented people put in very little work, and people with a little bit of talent put in a lot of work and actually excel beyond those talented people who don't understand the necessity of the work ethic. So music study and putting the work in has immense rewards. Never overlook that. Now, tonight, when we're gonna take a closer look at a concept called the circle of fifths, and the 12 keys are represented in the circle of fifths. And I want to just talk about those 12 keys, because those are possibilities and options and places and things you can use as you're making musical choices and decisions, which is something we're going to talk about next time. And so I like to look at the circle both clockwise and counterclockwise. And my reason for this approach is because, for me, it creates kind of a simpler view of the information that's contained within the circle. When I look at it clockwise, I see 7 keys that all have sharps in them. And when I look at it counterclockwise, I see 5 keys that have flats in them. And so by looking at it clockwise and counterclockwise, I see the 7 sharp keys, the 5 flat keys, which represents the 12 keys. And so that's simpler for me, instead of just going around in circles like a hamster wheel. And now in each one of those 12 keys, there are both a major key and a relative minor key. And that relative minor key, and I'm going to do a little demonstration in a little bit and show how the major give you one kind of sound and vibe, and then you can shift to the minor and continue the melody just like it was, and all of a sudden it gives you a whole nother vibe, but you didn't change anything except whether you were in the major mode of that key or in the minor mode of that same key. And so that's another one of those tools that become a choice and a possibility when one is writing music or trying to, do a creative expression of some sort. And in each one of those 12 keys, in one of my previous podcasts, we talked about the 7 modes, and those 7 modes being the chord changes that happen in every key. And so with there being 7 scale positions in 12 keys, that means that there's 84 scale repetitions that you can do just by using the same 7 set of scales in each one of the 12 keys. That's a practice mode that I endearingly call the chop burner, because you can start off just by using one note, and then you can start off by playing the arpeggios, and then you can go into playing the entire scale, and then you can play it in perpetual motion. And as you move through all of the positions in one key, and without stopping, move to the next key, and without stopping, move to the next key, you can see how after a while, it can create some serious endurance, or it can burn you out. So I love to call it the chop burner. And so what I'm going to do when we come back from our break, I'm going to pick up my guitar again like I like to do, and I'm going to kind of play some of what I've been talking about. I'm going to play, for example, the 12 keys. I'm going to play the major mode of one key and the minor mode of that same key. Then I'm going to change keys, play the major mode in that key and the minor mode in that key. And I'm going to let you kind of hear how it all comes together. And then I'm going to take two very simple songs that everyone knows. And I'm going to sing the melody with the major key. And then I'm going to sing that same melody with the minor mode and let you hear how it changes the vibe. And I'd love for you to call in and let me know how those changes and how those things actually affect what you're hearing and how it makes the song sound, how it makes it feel. So don't y'all go away. I'd like for y'all to hang out. That number again, 404-464-8785. Call in, share it with me.
We do bring joy where there's pain, turn loss into gain, bring light where it's dark, free.
Broadcasting live from Atlanta while serving the entire globe. It's the fastest growing radio on the web. It's 106liveradio.com.
Back again.
Join prophetess Sophia Ruffin and prophetess Tish Shearer, sponsor of the Bridge Club crew, for the Prisoner of War in the Mind Conference at the Renaissance Concourse Atlanta Airport Hotel on June 2nd to June 4th. Are you ready for nights of networking, healing, and deliverance? Well, this is an event you don't want to miss. Call into the Bridge Club crew any Thursday from now to June 1st and be the 6th caller for your chance to win one of 2 free tickets to the event. The Prisoner of War in the Mind Conference. For more information and for ticket prices, visit powinthemind.eventbrite.com.
Olivia from Washington. Laid off and trying to keep our little kids from realizing that mommy and daddy haven't eaten in a while.
Roger from California. I'm grateful we could afford our son's surgery. I'm nervous that now we can't really afford food.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Keisha from South Carolina. I've been skipping meals so my 2 kids can eat, but filling up on water doesn't really work.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad
This is
Council.
Willie from the Male Perspective on 106liveradio.com, where excitement meets diversity 24/7. The Male Perspective is a show where men talk about things that men talk about, getting to the real meat and heart of the matter from the male perspective. No holds barred. The truth on 106liveradio.com. Also tune in to YouTube to watch us live. Call in 404-464-8785 and voice your opinion and be heard live from the Male Perspective.
The Word of God is the most instrumental part of a believer's life. How do we approach life while honoring the Word? Well, we want to talk about it. Join us on Life Talk as we talk through life with the Word every first and third Sunday from 5 to 7 p.m. right here on 106 Inspiration.
Maximize your brand. Calling all hosts. Have you ever dreamed of hosting your own show? Well, 106 Live Radio platform is looking for positive, creative, self-motivated individuals and groups. Here you can host your own program. If you are serious and interested in joining our growing platform, Team 106 is happy to host you at our state-of-the-art studio. Please reach out to us at 404-622-4152 or send us an email at contactus@106liveradio.com. Bring your best self.
All right, welcome back, y'all. All right, so
let's get into it. Let's talk about it. Now, this is the portion of the show where you get to call in, you get to ask questions, or you get to share a little something with me. So feel free. Now, I talked a little bit about this circle of fifths and how I like to look at it clockwise, how I like to look at it counterclockwise. I talked a little bit about all the information that it contains. It contains the key signatures. It contains how many sharps and flats are in each key. It organizes them numerically. It makes it easy to see how those keys look if they were written down. And so, if I can have the graphic put up, I just want to allow everybody to take a look at the actual circle of fifths, because I want to actually kind of point out some of the information. So if we look at the circle of fifths like a clock, okay, up at 12 o'clock, we have the key of C. The key of C is the key that has no sharps and no flats. If you see the little treble clef up there with the lines and the spaces, you don't see anything except the clef on the lines and the spaces. So that lets us know there's no sharps and no flats in that key. So it's like 0. And if you notice in the inside circle, the green circle, it has the letter C and capitalized, which means that's the major key. And then when you look at the circle inside of the green circle, it has the little a, the lowercase a, which means the minor key. So in the key of C major, A is the relative minor. So let me play that. So if we have C or C as the I'm gonna have to get this intonation checked. There we go. All right. There was something about that was bugging my ear. It was just too sharp. So if we have the key of C, then we're gonna go to the key of A. Different sound, same key. Just the major mode of C and then the minor mode of C, or the relative minor, which is A. But they contain both the same notes. A happens to be the 6th position. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the relative minor is always the 6th position of the major. So it's not a new key, it's just a different position in the major key. So we got major and we got minor. We go back to major, we go to minor. Okay? So now, that's one key. That's the key of C. And I'm going to also go back to something that I had talked about in one of the previous broadcasts when I talked about moving around the 7 positions. Like here's position 1, position 2, position 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So if we move those around, they're going to give us different types of chord changes, which is how songs are actually put together. But right now, I'm just going to stick to the major mode of the key and then the minor, the relative minor of a key. So now I'm going to go to, can we get the graphic back up? Because I want to go to the next key. Right now, I'm going clockwise around the circle. I'm going clockwise. So if you see at 1 o'clock now, We were at 12 o'clock with C. Now at 1 o'clock, we're at G. And if you look inside, underneath the G, where the lowercase letter is, it says E. So that tells us the minor to G, the relative minor to G is E. So we have and back to the minor. Okay, so those are pretty interesting chords working together. So let's hear what C and A sounded like again. Now G and E. All right, pretty nice. All right, now I'm going to keep going around the clock. I'm going around the clock again. Now we were at 1 o'clock. Now we're going to move to 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock is D. And if you look inside, B is its minor. Okay. Now we're going to move, because I'm just going to move on through. Now, if you have something you'd like to contribute, please call in at 404-464-8785. I'd love to hear from you. Now we're at A, and from A, F sharp is the minor. So it goes like that all the way through. So there's 12 keys. Now I'm going to go counterclockwise. I stopped at A because it's just going to keep going up through the keys with sharps. Now I'm going to go counterclockwise, and we go back to 12 o'clock. And now we're going to go to 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock is F. And the relative minor is D. Now we're going to go to B flat, with the relative minor being G. Now we move on to E flat. And then, of course, we can see that that's a C minor with that one. We go to A flat, and there's an F. And as we move on up, you can see that there's several keys that tend to have sharps and flats. And so those are called enharmonic keys. Those keys share a space. But here's the kind of technicality about those keys. If we say C sharp, then every note is going to become sharp. And so it's much cleaner or much easier music theory wise or written music wise to see it as a D flat, because there's only so many flats. There's only 5 there. That means there's some natural notes and some flat notes. But when you have, for example, all the notes sharp, then there's going to be some strange anomalies, which we can talk about. And if you'd like to know what they are, call up and try to figure out what I'm talking about, those anomalies. And you can see that F sharp and G flat are both sharing, it can be looked at as either G flat or F sharp. But we tend to deal mostly with an F sharp. Now, that's a little interesting for me because the G flat, it seems just as confusing, but mostly it's used as F sharp. Very rarely do you see something actually written in G flat. Then we move up to where you see that anomaly of C flat and B, meaning C flat and B are the same thing. And you can see that B has fewer sharps than C flat has flats. C flat has 7 flats. So C sharp and C flat have 7 sharps and 7 flats. That's why you'll probably never hear music written in those keys expressed that way. They'll mostly be written either in the key of B or in the key of D flat, because it's much easier to recognize and you don't have as much clutter on the page, writing all those incidentals and accidentals and other dentals and all that stuff. So you want to be very, very clear. Even though it's possible to call it the key of C sharp, it's not practical. Even though it's possible to call it the key of C flat, it's not practical. And so we don't want to make it more difficult for ourselves by using the more difficult expression of a thing. So most musicians will go with the easiest way to see it if they have to deal with the written page. So now I talked a little bit about the major and the minor of it. So when I'm thinking of something like, let's take just a simple little fairy tale, what they call it, a nursery rhyme. So if we say Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb, the melody is Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Mary had a little lamb whose fleece was white as snow. Now, if I play that melody with the major chords, Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb, then it has one kind of sound to it. But if I switch that up, keep the exact same melody, change nothing about the melody at all, but simply go to the minor mode, it's all of a sudden got a different sound. Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Mary had a little lamb whose fleece was white as snow. Now, the difference between those two, Mary had a little lamb whose fleece was white as snow. One has one quality and the other has a different quality. So call in and tell me what those qualities actually sound like to you, or how they feel. What did they do to the song? There's another one, excuse me, that I'm gonna do the same thing to. So again, just a simple little melody. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Now, if we switch that over to the minor mode, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. All of a sudden, it has this different quality. Even singing it makes me feel different. Like with one, I kind of feel inspired or uplifted. Like row, row, row your boat. Like I could really put in some paddling. But this one feels darker, like I'm rowing at nighttime. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. That life is but a dream. That sounds almost scary. When you do it in the major mode, life is but a dream, it actually sounds like dreamy. This one, life is but a dream. I don't know if I believe that one as much. Sounds like it might be moving into nightmare mode. So now, when we're talking about these majors and minors, what we're talking about are musical possibilities. And in order to know it, say if you're going to be making music, writing songs and doing things, there's what I call just pure inspiration, where you don't have to know anything. You just go by what sounds good. And whatever sounds good, that's what works. That's a valid form of music creation. It's valid because it's pure expression. Then there's other ways to what I call construct music. It's not so much that it's coming from some imagined place. There's ways to write music that are based on structural possibilities. So, for example, I could write, like a few weeks back, I talked about the 7 modes and how each one of them have a different sound. Even though I'm in the same key, they have this different sound. So if I'm at position 1 and I'm just hanging out at in the key of C, simply because it has no sharps, no flats, it's an easy key to play in. And if anybody out there is following along, then it's probably the easiest place to start. So I tend to hang out there. So if I start just by playing 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, 3, 2, 1. What is that? Did I just play a song? My board operator is over here, got this big smile. I know what that is. And so you can see that just by using literally no arrangement at all, just using the sequence of chords, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, is one of the most famous songs. Everyone knows that song. And if you don't, call me up and let me talk to you. So now that's using just 1, 2, 3, 4. But what if we switch all that around? And keep in mind, we're not just switching around 4 of those possibilities. We're switching around 7 of them. And so with those 7 choices, we have a lot of possibilities, a lot of options, a lot of different things that we can do. And it doesn't really matter that it sounds like something else. And I can give you a little proof of that if you just listen to, let's say, if you listen to Earth Angel and then listen to Etta James at Last. You can hear musically they sound very similar, but the melodies are very different. And so the melodies are usually what's copyrighted. Chord changes, they tend to be used by everybody. There's other songs like, let me think. I know one. Billy Ocean, Caribbean Queen, and Billie Jean. The grooves and the bass lines on those and some of the changes are almost identical, but they switched up the intros and they switched up the melodies and possibly changed the key. But if you listen to the music, very, very similar, because a lot of music that moves human beings a certain way tend to have similar qualities or similar characteristics. Like, if you call in and tell me, when I play a major chord versus playing a minor chord, what difference does it make to hearing it? How does it feel listening to one versus the other? When I sing, for example, row, row, row your boat, or if I sing row, row, row your boat, how does those sound? Do they feel different? And most people are going to recognize a difference. Some folks feel it one way, some folks feel it another way, but everyone recognizes that there's something different because that's what music does. Each one of those changes in frequencies literally stimulates something different in you. And so we're going to be taking a short break in a little bit, but when you guys actually began to study music and look at some of the patterns and begin to examine some of the possibilities, there's a simple side to it, which is kind of how music is structured. When you look at the circle of fifths, you can see C has nothing, G has 1, D has 2, and they're literally lined up on the circle telling you what they have. G has 1, it's at 1 o'clock. D has 2, it's at 2 o'clock. A has 3, it's at 3 o'clock. E has 4, it's at 4 o'clock. B has 5, it's at 5 o'clock. F sharp has 6, it's at 6 o'clock. And then when you start heading back the other way, if you come in, I always go clockwise. 12 minus 1 equals 11. 12 minus 2 equals 10. And look at that. The one flat, 12 minus 1, is at 11 o'clock. 12 minus 1 equals 11. So it's got one flat. 12 minus 2 equals 10 o'clock. It's got two flats. 12 minus 3 equals 3. It's at 9 o'clock. So it's mathematically and structurally simple. Here's where the actual the real complication comes in. The possibilities. Just from the 7 notes or the 7 positions, there's 5,040 possibilities. So just from 7, imagine 12. I'll tell you about that when we come back. So don't you guys go away. Feel free to give me a buzz. 404-464-8785. I'd love to hear from you.
Broadcasting live from Atlanta while serving the entire globe. It's the fastest growing radio on the web. It's 106liveradio.com.
Back again.
Join prophetess Sophia Ruffin and prophetess Tish Shearer, sponsor of the Bridge Club crew, for the Prisoner of War in the Mind Conference at the Renaissance Concourse Atlanta Airport Hotel on June 2nd to June 4th. Are you ready for nights of networking, healing, and deliverance? Well, this is an event you don't want to miss. Call into the Bridge Club crew any Thursday from now to June 1st and be the 6th caller for your chance to win one of 2 free tickets to the event. The Prisoner of War in the Mind Conference. For more information and for ticket prices, visit powinthemind.eventbrite.com.
Olivia from Washington. Laid off and trying to keep our little kids from realizing that mommy and daddy haven't eaten in a while.
Roger from California. I'm grateful we could afford our son's surgery. I'm nervous that now we can't really afford food.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Keisha from South Carolina. I've been skipping meals so my 2 kids can eat, but filling up on water doesn't really work.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad
This is
Council.
Willie from the Male Perspective on 106liveradio.com, where excitement meets diversity 24/7. The Male Perspective is a show where men talk about things that men talk about, getting to the real meat and heart of the matter from the male perspective. No holds barred. The truth on 106liveradio.com. Also tune in to YouTube to watch us live. Call in 404-464-8785 and voice your opinion and be heard live from the Male Perspective.
The Word of God is the most instrumental part of a believer's life. How do we approach life while honoring the Word? Well, we want to talk about it. Join us on Life Talk as we talk through life with the Word every first and third Sunday from 5 to 7 p.m. right here on 106 Inspiration.
Maximize your brand. Calling all hosts. Have you ever dreamed of hosting your own show? Well, 106 Live Radio platform is looking for positive, creative, self-motivated individuals and groups. Here you can host your own program. If you are serious and interested in joining our growing platform, Team 106 is happy to host you at our state-of-the-art studio. Please reach out to us at 404-622-4152 or send us an email at contactus@106liveradio.com. Bring your best self.
All right, welcome back, y'all. I had a good time tonight sharing that information with you. I can see a kind of little building process taking place. And so I hope you guys tune in each week and let the information kind of build up on itself. I can tell you that next week, I'm going to be literally kind of continuing along these lines, because what I'm going to be talking about next week is musical choices, and things like deciding which musical characteristics, which rhythms, which tempos, which meters, which kinds of things best kind of support or accompany the thing you're trying to express. And so we're going to be talking about that. And it's not necessarily required that you actually play an instrument, as much as you can actually follow along and even make the sounds with your own voice, or you can tap out the rhythms on the table. There's just little pieces of it that work out better if you actually have an instrument available, but it's not always or necessarily required. So feel free to join in, and to whatever extent you would like, just find a way to be able to participate and kind of explore and examine some of the things that I'm sharing with you. And before we sign out, I want to say it's always a lot of work bringing some quality content, and I'm going to be having some guests coming back in and going to be doing some performances, and it is very helpful when we receive contributions, when we have sponsorships, and when we get donations that allow us to actually develop the content. So please feel free to log on to 106liveradio.com and leave a contribution, leave a donation, become a sponsor, and allow us to develop the kind of content and the kind of quality that you deserve. So once again, having a lot of fun each week, bringing content to you. And this week, the way it kind of felt to me, going back and forth between the majors and the minors, I could kind of see that there's some possibilities there, and can even begin the process of opening up maybe some joint collaborations with people. Also, if anyone's interested in coming to see me perform live, you can see me every Thursday. Well, most Thursdays, except for the few times when I'm either out of town doing things. But you can see me each Thursday in Gainesville, Georgia. Yes, quite a bit away from Atlanta, at a small little bistro, which has absolutely fabulous food, called Avocados. And from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock, we're there having a good time, eating good food, and I'm trying to lay down as best music as I can for you, playing some blues, playing some jazz, playing some rock, playing some dance music, playing whatever it is allows folks to have a good time. So please come on down and enjoy. And in the meantime, I want you guys to always remember, if it don't work one way, just try it another way. There's always a way to get it done. I'll see you again as soon as you tune in. Thank y'all again. The Rodney Appleby Experience here at 106 Live Radio.
where excitement meets diversity. Thank y'all.
Love, oh love, there's nothing else but you. Fill our hearts and fill our minds, feel everything we do. Oh love, here I am, take me. My heart and my mind wide open, please set me free. Tell us about love, teach us all about love, yeah. Help us with love, show us how to love. Touch every part of us, deep down in every heart of us, flowing through in everything we do. Bring joy where there's pain, turn loss into gain. Bring light where it's dark, free every heart. Oh love, there's nothing else but you.